Resuming debate, the honourable member for Peace River Westlock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to take the opportunity at the beginning of this speech to thank all the people of Peace River Westlock for giving me the opportunity to stand in this House and make this speech. Mr. Speaker, today I rise to address the issue of fiscal responsibility. The previous Conservative government left this government $1 billion surplus, $1 billion. At a time when the rest of the world is in economic turmoil, we kept a steady hand on the wheel and steered this country through that turmoil. Not only did we manage our resources prudently, but we paved a $1 billion road into the future. In a few short months, the Liberals have squandered that surplus. When they originally introduced their new tax plan, they promised it would be revenue neutral. Since then, the Finance Minister has conceded that the plan was not revenue neutral and does, in fact, leave us a $1 billion hole. A report from the Parliamentary Budget Officer actually estimates this cost to be closer to $1.7 billion. This gross miscalculation speaks to this government's incompetence and the fact that they are proceeding with legislation after admitting they have broken this promise to Canadians. This speaks to their integrity. Mr. Speaker, in my riding of Northern Alberta, we have a number of industries: agriculture, oil and gas, and lumber, to name a few. We are a province of entrepreneurs, business people who understand the necessity of practicing fiscal responsibility if they want their businesses to grow and thrive. A spending spree on the taxpayer's dime is not only a sign of poor fiscal management, it is an irresponsible behavior that has drastic consequences down the road. Who is going to pay for this shortfall? The Liberal Party has talked about eliminating a number of tax credits. When we look at the available tax credits, it is clear who is going to pay for the shortfall. It might be first-time home buyers, or it might be families with kids in sports or arts. It might be students or apprentices. The very people who need these tax credits will be the ones paying off the Liberals' billion-dollar spending spree. As everyone here knows, the price of a barrel of oil has negatively impacted Alberta, and there have been massive layoffs in the oil patch, and this is a ripple effect in many of our communities. In my riding, the unemployment is up, EI applications are up, and the outlook for business, especially connected to the oil patch, is grim. I had a call from a transport truck driver the other day. He's in his 50s, and he's worked hard his entire life. Now he can't find work. Trucking outfits are scaling back. No one's hiring. His EI has run out, and his savings are dwindling, and his rent is past due. Why is the government focusing on tax credits and income tax hikes when we need a plan to create jobs? We need a plan to get Canada back on solid ground. There is a lack of evidence or explanation for why Bill C-2 changes will stimulate economic growth and development for Canadians. The Prime Minister believes that small businesses are tax havens. Does he plan on increasing payroll taxes on job creators? It is important to remember that small businesses create a large percentage of the jobs in Canada. Increasing payroll taxes on our job creators creates an extra burden on companies who are already struggling in these economic times. The fact is, many companies are downsizing right now, and now is not the time to increase business taxes. Neither is it the time to raise taxes on higher income earners. These are the people who traditionally create jobs and grow our overall economy. By increasing taxes on these job creators, we are discouraging success and punishing those who have done well for themselves. You can't spend your way to growth, and you can't tax your way to prosperity. Mr. Speaker, we've looked at all the tax cuts the Liberals are proposing for the middle class. Based on Finance Canada's estimates, the new Liberal tax plan amounts to on average an extra $6.34 per week for those individuals who qualify. $6.34 might buy a block of cheese or a few liters of gas. This tax break is not enough to grow our economy. It does not stimulate growth or innovation. This modification to the income tax rate hardly qualifies as a significant tax relief for Canadians, and it comes with a much larger price tag. When the previous Conservative government was in office, we reduced the taxes more than 140 times. We have a proud legacy of tax fairness, and we cut taxes through targeted measures that were responsible. We all are better off if this government worried less about income tax rate and instead focused on creating jobs so that more people can pay in. There is another amendment I'd like to address, Mr. Speaker, and that's the issue of tax-free savings accounts. The Liberals have unaccountably decided to slash contribution limits for the tax-free savings account to $5,500. Many Canadians rely on these saving accounts to plan for their future. Students save for higher education, couples save to start a family, entrepreneurs save to start a business, parents save for their children, and low-income seniors save for their retirement. These changes will make life less affordable for Canadians who are trying to save for their vulnerable years. Financial literacy is a subject now taught in some schools. As a parent, I will teach my own children practical money skills. It's an important concept to grasp that if we want to keep ourselves financially secure and free of uncontrollable debt, financial responsibility is important to the well-being of our individuals, families, businesses, and our nation. A recent report from the Parliamentary Budget Officer points out that Canadians are taking on uncontrollable levels of debt, and we have the highest debt in the G7 at 171% of our annual income. Households now face overwhelming exposure to negative income and interest rates that will likely become delinquent in their debt payments. Responsible Canadians are looking for a way to save when times are good so that they can be protected. Reducing TFSA contribution limits will reduce the abilities of Canadians to save for their retirement and to protect themselves in economic downturn. TFSAs provide a concrete vehicle for financial independence for Canadians. We should be encouraging responsible saving. Instead, the Liberals are turning a blind eye to financial literacy. They are taking options away for saving and are putting more Canadians at risk. This will translate into a greater burden on all taxpayers to support those who are unable to support themselves. I would like to point out that this future cost to taxpayers is what the Liberals have neglected to calculate. Fiscal responsibility is a fundamental component of good government. The Liberal tax plan, a plan that runs massive and long-term deficits, will burden the taxpayer and leave Canada more vulnerable to sudden economic shocks. Our Conservative caucus will stand up for taxpayers and press this government to approach spending in a responsible manner and to protect against risk, to ensure stability and long-term prosperity. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and comments? Question et commentaires. The honourable member for St. John Rothsay.
Mr. Speaker, thank you, and thank you, member opposite, for the speech and the delivery style of the speech, Mr. Speaker. But let's get one thing straight. The party opposite holds themselves up, Mr. Speaker, like they're the stewards of the economy. They have all the economic answers for Canada, and nobody else in the country knows what they're doing with respect to economics and the economy. Let's look at the facts. 7 straight deficits, Mr. Speaker. 2 recessions. A country in deficit. And yes, the party opposite likes to play the shell game. Let's throw in the EI surplus. Let's sell the GM stocks. Let's use the rainy day fund. Let's take money that we took from the Veterans Affairs and put it into our budget so we can pretend we have a balanced budget, Mr. Speaker, and we can show a surplus. I mean, Canadians don't